Hey, and I hope you're doing well there. This is our third video of today. And we will be checking over VS Code now. So on the very first video, you should be, from the first video, you should be familiar with Git. Git is that platform that will allow us to store our lectures, but then it's mostly used to store code and all sorts of things that we want, that we care about in software engineering and in some of the IT fields. The second video was to install Python, right? To make sure that we have, let me just have my head here. So the second video is just to make sure that Python is installed and working correctly in your computer. As some of you might have seen already, or for those who haven't started yet, Python is the programming language that will allow us to run our program or run our code. But after that, you see that we were using the terminal a lot to do a whole lot of things, even Python in particular. So let me show you one thing that I haven't shown you in the previous video about Python. So remember, to enable Python 3, we were forced to type in here Python 3 to have Python 3 coming up like this. So if I exit, right, and then I clear up the screen, the method to convert from using Python 3 to Python is basically this way. So what you want to do first is to know where is this Python 3 it's sourcing that particular application. I mean, in a MacBook or in a Mac operating system or in any other operating systems, when you double click on a particular app, then it goes into a file that's located into a folder to call it. So for this one, we will do reach Python 3. So it will basically show you where in the computer is basically going to get that Python 3 application to make it run for you. So what we will do, right, we will basically do something that we call an alias. So we want the new alias to be Python 3, to be Python. So we want to call it Python now instead of Python 3. So what we do Python, and then we basically say equal forward slash that name there, user, USR dot bin, sorry, forward slash bin, forward slash Python 3. In fact, I could just have copied this and pasted it there, and then I press enter. And what this thing has done is that each and every time now I will see Python, you basically bring in Python 3. So I can do Python, and then you see that we have Python 3. And let me exit this. All right. So that was the other bit that I didn't show you in the previous video. The topic of this video is mostly about VS Code, and VS Code is what we call an IDE, an integrated development environment that allows you to use Python and some of the programming languages in a more powerful way. So we will use VS Code for Python, but then as you can see in the bootcamp, we'll be using VS Code for HTML, CSS, and some of the things that we will be learning here about. So the next step here now is to go to Google Chrome. You can use Safari, but I prefer Google Chrome. And this is still the Hyperion Dev repository that we have here to start off. So again, it will be given to you. And the next thing to do is like you go to the starter pack. And once you go to the starter pack folder, you go to VS Code. And in here, you go to get started. And on get started, you have those instructions that will allow you to install VS Code. So the first part here, regardless of the operating system you're using, is to basically go to the VS Code website. So if I click on this website, or I would like to open it in a new tab so that I don't lose this one, Then I have VS Code here. And as you can see, we have the downloading of VS Code already selected for Mac OS. So if I click on this one, and then the download will just happen now. Thanks for downloading VS Code. I guess VS Code is being downloaded, as I can see it here. And yeah, it'll be done in a couple of seconds, and we should be good to go. But then let's go back to the instructions. As you can see, if I just bring this thing back a bit, as you can see, for Windows we have an exe. For Mac OS, we'll be having a zip file that we'll have to extract, and we we'll basically make use of that. And Linux, we have all of those. After that, we'll basically launch VS Code, and you would see. So, like I said, VS Code is an IDE, and you can basically check integrated development environment that will allow you to do a whole set of other things. As you can see here, you have multiple other IDEs that people are using. Visual Studio. We are currently using Visual Studio Code, Eclipse, and you have a plethora of all of those ones. So this is another word that you need to know. Now let's see. We have our file that has been downloaded. And as you can see, it's a zip file. So let me open the folder where it has been downloaded into. We have it here. So if I open that, yeah. So basically opening that folder, and let's see what's in there. And then we have VS Code, right? I just executed this file, and then we have VS Code. And now let me execute this VS Code as well. Basically open that, I double click on it. Basically telling me that the application has been downloaded from internet. Are you sure you want to open it? Yes. And it'll basically open. It will be just open here. And here we have VS Code. Let me just make this screen slightly bigger. Here we have VS Code. Now VS Code is installed. This is exactly what we wanted. But then as a value added, I would like to go forward into making sure that you can also use your Python in here, because it looks good. It's very beautiful. But then what's the use of VS Code when it's already installed? Matter of fact, let me make it slightly smaller, and then I'll close this. So from now, I think I just need to, I just need to, I would like to put it in the applications, but then that's something that I don't have. For now, I'll basically have it here, and then I'll keep it in the dock, so that it knows exactly where it is. It will stay in the downloads, but then it's fine. Let me now open VS Code to make sure that I have it here. So you now have VS Code installed. You have now VS Code installed, and that's very good. So now the next thing to do is to basically enable you to use Python, because you might have seen some of us using VS Code to interact with Python files. So treat VS Code almost like a better version of Microsoft Word, for example. So what we need to do here now is to make sure that we understand what we have here. So you have some icons here that will help you during your software engineering journey. So you have the Explorer for the files and folders that you open. This one will allow you to search for words or set of words that are hidden in a file or in multiple files. You have source control, which is used, I mean, to basically make sure that we can keep multiple versions of your code. And source control is backed up by Git. Git that we've seen in the very first lecture, but don't worry, we'll get there. We have the debug part that will allow us to debug the code, and debugging the code, it's about understanding why code is failing, and you have to go inside the inner working of the code. And each and every piece of software is made out of code, and code is made out of multiple lines of words and set of words. And you have extensions that we will click on, right? So extensions are basically there to make your life easier. So what we want to do, you see we have multiple extensions. So an extension is basically a little piece of software that is associated with VS Code that brings in a new functionality to VS Code. In this particular instance, VS Code is not necessarily only for Python. VS Code is for all the programming language you want to use. But then we want it to be having an extended functionality with Python. And I just click on install on Python, and it will install something for Python for me. So that's exactly what I want, right? So this is exactly what we will do. But while it's basically installing that, let's basically do a test run. So let's go to file, right? And then we go to new text file, right? And then we now write Python code, the same Python code we wrote on the other side. Hello, Julian. And then we put this one. Let me make this one slightly bigger so that you can see a bit more. So I'll zoom in, yeah. Okay, there we go. And let me go to the Explorer because yeah, the extensions are being installed. So you have VS Code here, and then I have this Python file. As you can see, you have multiple things that you need to worry about. So here you would see that you have a gray circle here that basically tells you that the file is actually not saved yet. So we want to save the file. So we press Control. We wrote a pretty valid Python code here. So let's press Control S to save the file, right? So I want to save the file. I press, okay. It doesn't work directly. I think with MacBook, you need to use that command, uh, that command key, but let's save the file from here instead. So yeah, as you can see, we save with Command S instead, so it's fine. I'd rather do it like this. I want to save the file, and as you can see, it basically goes there. I want to save it as, let's call it intro dot py. So this is the extension of your Python file. You do not need to remember it now, but then each and every Python file that you're saving needs to have that extension .py. And then where do you want to save it? I want to save it in the documents. And yeah, and I click on save, and you would see the gray thing will go away, and then some colors will basically come up. And that's basically good. And Visual Studio Code would like to access files in your document folder, yes. So you see that's good. One thing to notice as well is that here at the bottom, you have the language that's been used in this particular instance is Python. And we have that because we installed the extension here. As you can see, it's already installed, and we can uninstall that, but then we care about that. We would want to have that. And that's very good. And that doesn't necessarily mean that this will run with Python, but then it will basically tell us that it understands Python. So to basically check if that file is actually there, so what we do, we can reduce this, and then we go into Finder, we go into Documents. As you can see, we have our Python file here, right? This is our Python file, and then it's there. We have it there. That's a good thing. So what I want to do now Maybe I didn't want to do that. So what I want to do now is to run the file. I want to run the file with Python. So now there is the question. How do we link Python and VS Code? Because Python is already installed in the system. VS Code is already installed in the system. But then how do we make them work? Usually VS Code is aware of where Python is if it has been installed in a conventional manner. So what I'll do, you see you have this play button here. Let me move my face down a bit. You have this play button here that you can use, right? If I click on this play, it should eventually run that file, right? Run Python file. So I can click on that, or I can go on run, and then I can run without debugging. So this run without debugging is equivalent to clicking on this button. So let's click on if I click on this button, you would see that here there will be a new tab that will come up, and then it will basically show you the running of this particular file. So if I click on that, you see, it basically shows that, and then Hello Julian is actually coming up. And that's exactly what we wanted. So if we do what you've done in your very first lecture, where you have some variable uh, that it has been defined for a particular item. So I'll put my name here, Julian. Matter of fact, I'll call that variable name because it's my name. I'll say first name. And then one one a bit advanced, one advanced Python. Okay, let's not do the advanced feature. Let's just do exactly as you've done that in the lecture. And then here, the good thing with Python 3 that Python 2 can't do is, first of all, those brackets, these brackets that you see here, it's not compatible with Python 2. That's the reason why we want you to use Python 3. So here I put first name, which is that variable name here. And then to make sure that have things running, we have things running correctly. I'll also have another variable called last name, and then I'll put my last name double quotes there to make sure that we have that not confused with a variable name. So yeah, in Python, double quote, it doesn't really matter. Double quote, single quote, same thing. So I will put just a space here to basically say that I want a space between those elements. And then I have the last name that I put here. And then what I do, I save the file, because you would see here we have the gray element here. I save the file. There we go. The file is saved. And then I run the file, and then I should see hello, Julian Nyambao. So that's exactly what I was expecting. And that's basically what we want from this part. So from this point on, you successfully have installed VS Code, you successfully have installed Python, and you successfully have installed Git. So by now, you should be ready to run anything you want. This allows you to basically start the boot camp without any issues. If you have a problem, please let us know. We will be able to help you to solve most of these problems, but we would advise you to um, uh, review this video first, step by step, as slow as possible, to make sure that you understand exactly what steps or what step you missed before coming forward. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we will push you away. We will help you with that. On this particular one, I really wish you the best, and good luck with the whole bootcamp. So I'm Julian. On behalf of my colleagues and Hyperion Dev, good luck with the rest. Okay, bye.